Hi, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Today's video is going to be about what we've been reading or what we have read here in the last few weeks. And the first book I want to talk about is Peter Pan. I love the Disney film of Peter Pan. Love Tinkerbell, love Wendy, love Peter, love the whole idea of never growing up and staying young and all that. So we read the book. We really enjoyed it. We enjoyed particularly the beginning and the end parts. Also, it is interesting to note that that the author himself he lost one of his brothers at a young age. So when his brother was a boy, I can't remember, maybe about 9 or something like that, he passed away, and it was really, of course, extremely hard on the mother, and the author he said that he was always trying to make his mom, trying to help her, through this. And so I think part of what the whole never growing up thing here in Peter Pan, and Peter being who he was, came about from his experiences with the author's experience of losing a brother. And he also said that, every time he thought of his brother, of course, he remembered him as a boy, as a little boy. And so in his mind, his brother never grew up. And so I thought that was so sad and just so interesting to see where Peter kind of came from, and that whole idea around Peter. However, I believe that, now, this is a children's book, but it started off, I believe, as an adult book, like a book for adults, and then it was darker, and then there was a play, and then I think so, or vice versa. It was one of the play, and then the I've seen 2 different stories about it, so I'm not sure which one is actually correct. But anyway, so getting to where it is today, as we know it, it was, it went through some changes, is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, so it's really interesting. I think when you do a little research on the author, a little research on the books, then it adds like a whole new perspective, really. And so I was able to share that with the kids in book club. The kids liked it. We had fun in book club and did what did we do? They wrote a letter to Peter Pan or Tinkerbell, either one, and they were supposed to put it under the pillow at night and see what happens the next day. And the parents would sprinkle some glitter for pixie dust under the pillow. But anyway, it's a really fantastic book. Now, I will say this: as with some of the older books, there were a couple words in there that we don't say here, and I was surprised. But then again, back in those days, they probably didn't mean what they mean now. They weren't like bad words. So there were a couple of those. So I'm actually glad that I read it out loud to my daughter, who is old enough. I mean, she's 10, and she knows right from wrong and what words we use and don't use. So she wouldn't, it's okay. But I do recommend that if you're going to read this book, to younger kids, that you read it to them. Or, if you have older kids who want to read it, you just skim through it and, just talk to them about it. Okay, so that's Peter Pan. We really enjoyed it, but and I'm glad we read it, but I love the movie. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not saying don't read it. I think it's a good read. Okay, so the one we just finished was Heidi. Oh my goodness, I love Heidi. We did this for the age 9 to 12 book club, and I read this when I was about 10, and I loved this book. And now here I am, 41, reading it again. And that's the beauty of rereads, is that, you have a different perspective, obviously, as an older person. You've gone through, you're bringing something else to the book. You're bringing yourself with all your experiences that you have now, as opposed to back then. And so, but I love the book equally as much. One thing that I loved about the book is, and we did this as a read aloud here, one thing I loved about the book is that the author really takes you to the Swiss Alps, and you feel like you want to live this life. You want to be out in the remote corner of a mountain somewhere with goats and, live off of goat's milk and cheese and goat cheese, and just live a simple life. I really appreciate this book because it brought out the beauty of a simple life, because Heidi, she has that, and then she goes to Frankfurt where, it's like she's supposed to be better off. I don't want to tell you the whole book, but she's supposed to be better off there, and she's an orphan, and so she goes to live with these people who take her in, really nice people. Not everyone's kind, but it's a complicated life. There are lots of rules, and there are lots of things you have to worry about, and in such a big place, and it just reminds me of the difference between country living and just how busy that life is in general. So anyhow, love this book. Highly recommend. It is pure. It is sweet. It's very idealistic, and I do like that. So if you want a good sweet read for your kids that you don't have to worry about anything inside of this book, lots of moral lessons and whatnot, but just for the pure enjoyment of the book, really. I mean, Heidi is so sweet, and I love the grandpa, and anyway, yes, there are some other characters that I really like in here. So definitely recommend Heidi. We loved that one. My daughter, she reads a lot, so I don't have every single one of her books that she's read here because I can't keep track of them all. She just reads so quickly. This one I have not read, but I'm going to just show you what it is, 20 and 10. And it takes place during the German occupation of France. And this is one of her read-alouds that reads that she has to do with the Good and the Beautiful Language Arts Level 4. She really enjoyed it. In fact, now she's really, she wants to read more World War II era stuff. So speaking of which, okay. This one, When My Name Was Kyoko, we read this already last year, or no, maybe last year, 2 years ago, whenever the Olympics in Korea took place, that we totally got into, not the Olympics, but Korea itself. And so we just went on this like deep dive into Korea, and that's all we did for school for a long time. Anyway, we read this book. This is by Linda Sue Park, and this was a really good one. It was leading up to World War II. I mean, Japan occupied Korea at that time. There was no North or South Korea, and the things that happened. So it's from a child's perspective, and the things that happened in their family, and what was happening all around them, how life changed. What they had to do is they had to give up their Korean names and adopt Japanese names during that time. So that's what this story is about, and I do recommend this book. I think there was if I recommend you a book, please just do your own research. If you're just don't take my word for everything. Do your own research, see if it's age appropriate for your child. What your child, everyone's child's different and ready for different topics and whatnot. Okay, so all right, and last, this is what I'm reading right now. Oh boy, okay, Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings. This is a huge book, and I'm only maybe I would say a third of the way through. Maybe this is fantastic. I do not read fantasy. It's not my genre, but my husband has been begging me to read this, and he's gotten all of his friends to read it, and finally I was ready for it. I tried to listen to it on audiobook, and I couldn't do it, and I just picked it up one day when I said, okay, I'm ready for this book now. I'm ready to just slow down and do some reading. And I've been working on this book for about, I didn't get very far. It's kind of depressing. Maybe about 2 months, I think. I've been working on this book, or a month and a half. And I read it so slow because, like I said, fantasy is not my genre. And so it's like a whole new world I have to get used to. It's not easy for me to, but it is getting easier. So I had to start by reading it out loud so I can really let things sink in and get into it. But now I'm getting into the groove of it, and I'm reading it at a quicker pace, and I love all the characters. Well, not all the characters, but like there's a lot of great characters in here. Even if you hate them, they're great. And this writing is really good. This writing is really, really good. Brandon Sanderson, he's a genius. and I will finish this book eventually. So that's one of the things I'm reading. Of course, around here, we are always reading a bunch of nonfiction because homeschool, we're always doing that. And we love to read. So, and of course, I'm always reading the Bible every single day. I start off with devotions and we read the Bible, and that is the most important thing. So please let me know in the comments what you are reading, if you've read any of the books that I have brought up today, and if you enjoyed them, what you thought of them. And until next time, we'll see ya. Bye now.